going to do a slight overview on ARDK 3. We're going to explore some of the ARDK 3 examples that we will be packaging with our project. And then we're going to walk through how you can add ARDK to an AR Foundations project with a live demo that will go perfect. So what's new in ARDK 3? So this is a recap of Justin's talk. If you did not catch that yesterday, there will be a VOD available later. But to recap, ARDK 3 now lives on top of Unity's AR Foundation project. So if you already have an existing AR Foundation project, in ARDK 2 you would have had to pull that out in order to use Lightship instead. Now you can put it on top of AR Foundation, so you don't need to rip anything out. It'll work seamlessly with AR Foundation. Also new in ARDK 3, you can install Lightship with Unity's package manager. So we take a lot of the load off from you, the developer, to install ARDK 3. You don't have to worry about making sure everything's in the right directories. We do all that for you, and updating is much, much easier now for you as a developer. We also have an improved VPS localization experience to make localizing easier for you as a developer, and being able to iterate on your VPS designs is a lot easier. Everything's going to be easier, or yes, everything's going to be improved so that you have a much easier experience using ARDK 3. We also have a much requested feature enabling shared AR and VPS to work together in ARDK 3. Ria just did a great talk about that. The VOD will be available in a few days, and I highly recommend you all check that out to learn more about shared AR with VPS. And there are a slew of other improvements and efficiencies that are made with ARDK 3. Justin talked about some of them in his previous talk. There are more to come. Just stay tuned in mid-June for the open beta to learn more. So in order to use ARDK 3, you'll just want to make sure you're on a long-term supported version of Unity 2021 or 2022. And you want to make sure you have an AR-compatible mobile device. But what I want to note here is that you do not need a LiDAR device. All of our ARDK features are going to work on Android and iOS. And you'll also need a Lightship developer account, which is free to create over at lightship.dev. All right, so now let me show you a few of the examples that we have in ARDK 3 that you'll be able to use as the basis for your own AR experiences. So our ARDK 3 examples project is a collection of scenes that demonstrate various features of ARDK, such as depth meshing, VPS or visual positioning system, game board, shared AR, semantic segmentation. If some of these terms aren't familiar with you, we have a slew of resources online where you can learn more about what is semantic segmentation, what is shared AR. Those things are going to be even easier to use, but their concepts haven't changed. So I will be going through some of these concepts a little quickly. If you want to learn more about VPS, for example, please feel free to grab any Niantic if you want to learn more after this talk. So an AR experience means you need to deploy it to device to test out these ARDK examples, right? That's not the case with ARDK. You're actually able to test this all locally within the Unity editor using our video playback feature. So video playback allows you to test in the Unity editor by simulating the on-device experience. When a playback data set is recorded, we're recording all sorts of different telemetry from the device so that we can simulate that exact experience within the Unity editor. And it's compatible with all of our ARDK features. So let's get into some of the examples. At the kind of core of all AR experiences is depth. And so we have a number of depth examples that we can share with you. This particular one here is the depth display example. It just applies a shader to represent the camera's depth buffer. This is more for your understanding, and so you can grab this code and put it into your own projects. Next up, we have meshing, another one of those core foundations. This example just applies a shader to visualize the mesh as it's being generated and constantly updated in that scene. So if an object were to appear in the middle of this scene, the mesh will start to generate around that, and once that object leaves, that mesh will be updated and that object's kind of shape of that environment will start to change. I also want to note that the UI here, the experience is not final. This is all work in progress. We are working every day to make these examples better and better for the developers. So once it's in your hands, it's going to be a great experience. Occlusion, another one of those, like, seems like it's an obvious thing for AR, but it's a lot harder to enable. Here's a nice, easy occlusion example that is included in ARDK examples. It's simply a cube is projected in front of the camera, and as you walk around the environment, it's properly occluded or hidden by that environment. You would think that's an obvious thing, but it's not so much, but ARDK makes it easier for you to properly occlude objects as they should. Now, this example here isn't AR, but this is something that powers AR experiences. Our VPS coverage API, our VPS coverage API example shows VPS activated locations within a specific radius around the user. So our VPS activated locations, to kind of give a really quick spiel on VPS, VPS, or visual positioning system, allows you to create AR experiences at real-world locations with centimeter precise accuracy. So this list that you're seeing here is a number of VPS activated locations around the user. In this example, it is the ferry building. But this example can also help the next example we have here, which is our VPS anchor tracking. So this statue of Gandhi is a VPS activated way spot near the ferry building in San Francisco. And you're actually able to use this to track a specific anchor at a given VPS activated location. So once we understand exactly where you are after you localize against the statue, that blue cube will appear. So let me let it loop one more time. So once we understand exactly where you are, which kind of takes moments because it's such a well-scanned area, that cube represents an anchor. You would replace this with your own experience, but we encourage you to take this default anchor and then create your own experience on top of it. So it's just a tool for you to then duplicate for your own experience. And then one of my favorites is semantic segmentation. This example here will apply a shader to all the pixels in the scene that ARDK understands to be a particular semantic channel. So in the example here, we're flipping through sky, water, and the people segmentation channel. So you see the blue shaders applied to everything there that we saw with people. Blue is applied to everything we understand to be sky, and then similarly with water. This one, yes, it works in video playback. It's way more fun to test on device. I love doing the people segmentation, seeing all the blobs of people. It's really fun. And then switching through the different channels. We have so many different channels you can test out. Our new game Peridot uses many of these channels in their application. It's a lot of fun to play with. And there are a lot more ARDK examples that are to come. These are just a number of examples that I wanted to share with you. And if there are examples that you want to see in the future, or there's something you struggled with in ARDK2 and you'd like to see a particular example for that, please let me know, let my team know. We want to build products that help you make great AR experiences. All right, so next up, we're going to add ARDK to an existing AR Foundation project so I can show you how simple it is to do this process. So what I'm going to do is actually use just a blank AR Foundation sample project. The AR Foundation samples project is a collection of AR scenes that use AR Foundation and demonstrate all of its features. So similarly to ARDK examples, it's a collection of scenes. You click a button and it'll show you an example on meshing or whatever it might be. And this is publicly available on GitHub. You can clone it right away. But when you test with AR Foundation in the Unity editor, the sample project can't actually be tested in the Unity editor. This is what you'll see if you try to open up their meshing example. We're not using video playback, for example, so we can't simulate that AR experience until we put ARDK into the project. So the installation is pretty easy. You will install ARDK through the package manager. You just let Unity handle all that installation. You tell it where it is, and it'll start to install it. And then there's one more step you need to do within the project settings. You'll want to make sure you select the Lightship SDK as one of the XR plugin providers. And because we want to test this within the Unity editor, we're going to make sure we enable video playback. So what we'll do is in the Lightship menu bar item, we'll open that up, and then within the settings, we're going to make sure we enable video playback and then give it a data set path. This is the recording to that video playback video that we created. And ARDK3 will include a number of playback data sets for you to use, so you don't have to worry about making sure you create your own before you can start testing. There will be a number of them included for you. And then we'll want to make sure we add our Lightship API key. It's within the same Lightship settings section. You'll just want to make sure within credentials that you add your API key. And then we're ready to test it out. So you'll just press play, and then within the game view, we will be able to actually test out a number of AR Foundation samples right away. This example here is Unity's meshing example, where it generates the mesh, and then when you click, it spawns a ball. The ball interacts with the mesh. You'll see for the areas where we don't understand, because the mesh hasn't been generated yet, the ball falls through, but the ball reacts with the physics of the mesh otherwise. All right, let's do this live demo. Let me switch over to, this is an empty project. I've cloned the Unity AR Foundation sample, and I will show you what I mean by you can't test anything in here. Let me open up this menu scene. We have on the right side there, let me see if I can make it a little bigger. Everything that we can actually test without Lightship. This is just the blank AR Foundations project. We go to mesh, and you can click ball, it reacts. It's not really testing out your AR project. If you deploy this to the phone, it'll work great, but if you want to quickly iterate your ideas, you'll want to add ARDK so that you can use the video playback feature. All right, so let's go through the steps of adding ARDK. You'll want to open up the package manager. And then in the package manager for the beta build, I am going to add as a tarball here. And we'll add our ARDK package. And then we do nothing. Wait. Unity is handling the ARDK installation for us. So no longer will you have to make sure everything's installed in the right packages. Updating is so much easier because Unity will handle the updates for you. You don't have to make sure you rip out every trace of Lightship in it. This is going to be a lot smoother for not only us to iterate and test our ideas, our projects, but also for you to upgrade ARDK versions or whatever it is you need to do. All right, so we have ARDK in the package manager. We're also going to want to make sure we enable the Lightship SDK within the project settings. So under the section here, XR plugin management, you'll just want to make sure for all of the platforms that you have Lightship SDK selected as a plugin provider. So I'll just do that for all these platforms here, but we are not deploying to device right now. Allow Unity to do its thing, compile. And now we need to, if I wanted to deploy this to a device, I could do that, but we're going to test it within the Unity editor. We're going to open up the Lightship menu over here at the top and go to the settings, and that'll open up in the inspector view here. If you used ARDK2, you might remember the fun time of adding your own API key, making sure you add the resources folder and then the API config. We're handling that for you now. You just need to drag and drop your API key here. So, but I'm not sharing one with you. Not a chance. For this demo, it's okay. And then we want to make sure that in the playback section here at the bottom, we check mark that it's enabled on editor. And then in the dataset path, you'll just want to point it to a dataset that you'll want to use. I'm going to use one of, let's do this one. And then we click play. We touched no code. We should be able to test our meshing example. And for the very, very first run, it's going to take a hot second for ARDK to initialize, but then subsequent runs, it's going to be much faster. And as we see, the mesh is starting to generate in this environment. You can see in the scene view here, I like showing this part off, that the mesh is actively being generated. This is something you could interact with, and it's just really interesting to see it generate live. And the example, let's see, as they go about, we can confirm that meshing is working correctly. The AR Foundation meshing example is using ARDK's meshing and depth modules in the background. We're also able to actually deploy this to Android despite not having a LiDAR device. All those features are going to work. And I'll quickly show you just kind of how you switch between other data sets. Let me go here, and we'll show the Gandhi statue. And I'll just quickly show you, you might not have caught it when I first showed the example here without Lightship, but occlusion was not even an option that we could click on. So I will show you the simple occlusion example here. It's a little fast, but what it does is as the orb flies through the environment, it'll be properly occluded by the things that it should be occluded by. So you'll just quickly see they vanish as they should. It's just a way for you to test all within the Unity editor. And we did not do any code to enable ARDK, and we have all the benefits from ARDK now that we've added it to our AR Foundation sample. Great. Sweet. So when will ARDK 3 be available? You'll be able to play with ARDK in mid-June. We'll have our open beta in mid-June. Invite you all to test it out, deploy ARDK examples to your device, have fun playing with the semantic segmentation example. If there's something you explicitly want to see in ARDK 3, please talk to the Niantics in the room. We want to make the product that'll help enable you to create amazing AR experiences.